this is leading to a genocide. There's no question. And the reason I know this is leading to a genocide is because the Israeli armed forces are looking to cut off all means of supplies to Gaza.
By the way, the fact that that can be done from one side to the other completely defines the problem.
Yeah.
That right there, that's the problem. This is not a conflict. It's not a conflict. Like, I love how it's like framed like somehow this is like also, an even thing.
This is also a much bigger issue because this is, if there is a clear distinction of the violation of international law, which the United Nations should absolutely be stepping in on right now, it's this. But they're not saying a goddamn word about it. And the reason they're not saying it is because all roads always lead to what the United States State Department wants. And so this is what they want. And we're going to show you a clip of just how they are going to commit mass genocide in the Gaza Strip.
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
And this is just in the last 48 hours.
And we know, like, and I just want to confirm, like, that's current footage, yes, because I know that oftentimes we get things from other things, but that to me is from what my understanding is that is current footage, right?
That sure looked like Gaza to me.
Okay, yeah, Colin's saying it. So, I mean, yeah, that's just, that's not a conflict. That's a massacre. Yeah, I mean, and they're not going to stop.
And the disparity, I mean, honestly, Gaza, it's not as if Gaza was fine before this. That's what's important to remember. 97% of water in Gaza was unfit for human consumption. 50% of Gaza was unemployed. 50% of Gaza is children. They don't have access to the outside world. They can't get medical equipment to treat people with cancer because Israel does not allow that equipment in. Life is miserable in Gaza. It is an open air prison. It is effectively a concentration camp. And you can only imagine when that's the starting point, that when Israel cuts off water and electricity and stops allowing food into the Gaza Strip, how much more dire the situation is for everyone. It really is a horror show, and we get glimpses of it from social media, but even that is limited given the fact that Israel is bombing even access to the internet in the Gaza Strip, all telecommunications networks. It becomes extremely difficult for people living inside of Gaza to send the images of what they're seeing out to the rest of the world to see. And that's exactly where the situation gets really, really dangerous. Because when there is no voice, and Israel knows that there is no voice from inside of Gaza that can reach the rest of the world, they know they can get away with almost anything. And that's a really, really scary prospect for the people who live there. I can't imagine what it's like to be living there right now, to not know at what point the entire apartment complex that you're living in is going to just come down on top of your family and your children, and there is nowhere to go. Netanyahu talks about everybody, it's time to leave. We're going to target this area, that area. Gaza is incredibly densely populated, and people are under siege, and there is nowhere to go.
I was going to say, where are they going? People, like we had somebody, our friend in the chat, why don't they just go to Egypt and Jordan, or Egypt and Lebanon, or wherever it is that you think that people should just go? And it's not that simple because they don't let them out.
But it also goes to show you how consistent the corporate media talking points are. I mean, they really drill this into people's heads, and they just parrot it like it's nobody's business. And it's always interesting how, you could just look at Osama bin Laden. First, he was our ally in the mid-'80s, and then he became the biggest enemy in the world. And everything could be traced to when you were useful versus when you're no longer useful.
Yeah, and in this case, it's really important to note that Hamas was allowed to flourish through a deliberate Israeli decision to try to create a counterbalance for the PLO. There's an effort to suppress nonviolent movements in Palestine. Just any kind of civil society resistance to Israel gets crushed. They want their opposition to most powerfully be expressions like Hamas, so that they can start justifying the crimes that they are committing when this is the only thing that is left that Palestinians are resorting to. That is very much a deliberate decision. And yeah, look, it's a situation in which you have, for a very, very long time, Palestinians looking for a way to be free and pursuing every avenue that is possible in order for them to get that. And everything is being constantly shut in their face They're being kicked in the face at every turn. And then when they finally resort to this kind of thing, now it becomes wall-to-wall coverage in support of massacres of Palestinians. It's an infuriating situation to be hearing from people who are undergoing this kind of treatment and asking how come the world doesn't care. If people, and that's the thing, if people knew, they would care. Palestinians have nowhere to go because Gaza is locked from every corner, and because Israel says if Egypt tries to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza, then Egypt is going to bomb those convoys on their way in. That is what they said. So it's a warning for even neighbors to even think about providing any kind of humanitarian assistance to the people of Gaza. That is the current situation that we're in. And Israel being the dominant military force in the entire region, backed by the dominant military force in the entire world, it's a really, really ugly situation and an imbalance of power that, we should.
And we've seen this.
Be concerned about.
We've seen this because I forget what year it was. There was a Turkish ship, right? It was like a Turkish ship or something. They were off the coast and they were wanting to give aid. They were trying to get aid. It was like an aid vessel for Gaza. And 9 people ended up dead on board that ship, lo and behold. So,
including an American citizen, by the way, and they were all unarmed.
When was that? Do you remember? Like, when that wasn't that long ago.
I want to say 2008. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I mean, and I know I'm old, but like, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago. But yeah, so they don't allow help in. You're not allowed to. And by the way, people who don't realize this, there are at least 26 states in this country that have anti-BDS legislation on their books. So you're not even allowed to protest with your dollars, even though the same people say your dollars are speech. So it's really interesting here. So this is, by the way, I realized I had this epiphany of when I started really unraveling my whole Zionist thing. I've always known it was screwed up. Like I always sort of had a sense that as like an adult, this isn't right. But really, when the anti-BDS stuff started happening, that was like when I really started picking away at the onion and realizing, well, wait a minute, you're not allowing people to peacefully protest. What are you afraid of? And then I started digging, and it's just gotten worse since there. And I recently have realized that I was used as a tool in ethnic cleansing when I was in Israel. And I did not know that at the time. So this has been like a really, it's not been good for me the past few years.
And I think, look, the anti-BDS stuff, I think, is worth touching base on real quick, because in America, the concept of political boycotts is protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution, defended by the U.S. Supreme Court on those grounds. You remember, in the founding of the country, boycotting British tea was part of the foundation. During the Civil Rights Movement, boycotting the Montgomery bus boycott is part of the Civil Rights Movement. We have a long history in this country of fighting for justice through boycotts. And now we have a situation in which, with the help of the Israeli government, they brag about their role in it. Laws are being passed around states, making it punishable to boycott Israel, not just Israel, by the way, to even boycott Israeli settlements, which are considered war crimes under international law. That can cause you to be punished by the U.S. government, denial of contracts with public schools and things of that sort. So you have a situation in which you can boycott American companies and American states and American whatever, and that's totally fine. That's free speech. But if you boycott a foreign country's war crimes, then the government can take away your job if you have a contract. And the worst case scenario, by the way, there was one incident in which Hurricane Harvey in Texas, I don't remember what year that was, a while back, there was a town in Texas that said you could not qualify for hurricane relief unless you signed this document that said that you do not boycott Israel. It's a level of insanity. It's an obvious violation of the First Amendment. Thankfully, the ACLU has sued in multiple states and has won and caused these laws to be rolled back in some cases, but they come back with certain tweaks that makes them more difficult to challenge. It's a real battle for free speech that I think is ongoing, and one that Americans should be paying attention to. It's time, but it could end up violating our free speech in many, many different areas if it allow for that rollback of the First Amendment the way that we're seeing these attempts unfolding.